Good for us to get acclimated for this election that's coming up here. Senator Telo Taitague joins us in the KUAM News Link Zoom room. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Guam. It's been a while. It's always good to be able to sit and talk with you and find out what's going on on Guam, because we don't get that information unless
I hope you're going to tell us what's going on. We'll kind of start here with some hiring news, Senator. I don't know if you saw this, but one of your former colleagues has been hired on and I'm not sure. Let me pop up our website here. Former Senator Dennis Rodriguez has been hired on by the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration. Let me get this story. It's up on KUAM.com, guys.
Yeah.
But where is that at here? So former Senator Dennis Rodriguez, is that up on our website? I don't see it.
Well, it seems there's a lot of hiring going on lately, but that was predicted, with the ARPA funding going on. I hear there's also going to be a change down at BSP. I don't know if you heard about that.
I haven't. Do tell. So what you were telling me that. So what is the change coming out of BSP? Thank you, sir.
I heard that Tyrone Taitano is going to be stepping down from BSP. And of course, this is all unofficial because I just heard it
through the Papulu vine.
Through himself. No, actually through himself.
Oh, so Tyrone told you that he was leaving BSP.
Tyrone told me that.
Okay,
and
right
so he'll be stepping down from BSP and going to be in charge of the funding that's coming in from the bipartisan infrastructure money that's coming into Guam. So that's
Isn't
interesting.
That what the state clearinghouse is for? Or is it, are they?
Well, you would think, that's exactly what it's for. But, there's an opportunity to create another position. And, I was thinking, where's the money going to come from? So I read the infrastructure bill that came out and what is entitled to Guam. And I also attended something online through they had a liaison from Washington, D.C. to explain the how to use this funding and the opportunities surrounding that. It's not just the money coming to Guam, but the opportunities through grants. And this has, I think, a 4 to 5 year lifespan to spend this funding. It also incorporates the ability to have, I think, about 5% about 5% of administrating fees. So boom, there's that's how it's going to pay his salary.
There you go.
Administrative fees. Thank goodness it's not going to come from the general fund.
Right.
I mean, God knows we've got a lot of issues coming up that we don't see in front of us right now, but it's definitely going to be coming up. We have the Department of Public Health and Social Services notifying us that there is going to be a shortfall for Medicaid. And we need to come up with that funding. The Build Back Better had incorporated keeping the percentage, I think it was 73% from the federal government and the remaining from GovGuam. That may go right back to 55 to 40, I think it's 55, 45. And that matching is going to cost the government of Guam more. So there are a lot of bills that we haven't even seen. Inflation is coming up. We've got to find ways to assist our community, and especially with their health.
Yeah, so on that note, you're talking about health. The former Senator Dennis Rodriguez Jr. is now serving as the chief advisor on health care. Here is this release from the governor's office. Governor Leon Guerrero has tapped on former Senator Dennis Rodriguez Jr. to serve in the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration as the chief advisor on health care with a focus on addressing health disparities in the community. As we navigate towards recovery, we are revitalizing our local healthcare system to address the needs magnified by the pandemic so the people of Guam can continue making progress undeterred by unprecedented events, the governor said. As a trusted public servant who has prioritized and championed better health care for our families, Senator Rodriguez brings community and policy experience that will help us protect and uplift underserved people. The success of Operation Homebound taught us there are many on our island who require special care and dedicated resources for a range of health disparities. There's a pass the mic here. That quote is attributed to Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. Senator Rodriguez has spent his career advocating for healthy living and addressing our entire system of care to improve our quality of life through his policy work and Total Guam Foundation initiatives. He helped make local health care more affordable and accessible. Senator Rodriguez served 4 terms in the Guam legislature from 2011 to 2019, notably as the Committee on Health chairman. In 2015, he and his wife, Lena, co-founded the Total Guam Foundation to provide preventative health care to uninsured and underinsured Guam residents through various programs. He has previously served as a legislative chief of staff and policy writer, business manager, and member of several civic and nonprofit organizations. So just on another interesting side note is they mentioned the Total Guam Foundation. As we've said on this show, the Total Guam Foundation received $1.9 million in education stabilization funds. So I think at that time when that announcement came out, I had said on this air that I felt like that meant that former Senator Dennis Rodriguez was going to run for senator, under kind of like the Lou and Josh banner. I don't know what the salary, by the way, guys, is $90,000 for this position. But just your reaction, Senator, on Senator Dennis Rodriguez Jr. Being called to action here.
Well, I think Senator Rodriguez has proven himself as a senator when it comes to healthcare. In fact, I used some of his work in the 35th Guam legislature when I created the legislation for a new hospital task force, something that he put together, but then I wanted to finalize it. And I think the last step with that was finding the $1.6 million for funding for this task force to create the plan. So, I read some of the stuff he's done, because I was working on this project. So I believe he's a good pick for this, both institutional knowledge as well as political.
Oh, the political. So are you talking about that Pinoy vote or what? Is that what you're talking about, sir? Is that what we're talking about here?
I tell you,
it is what it is, Senator.
It is, and I thought I saw that on that educational stabilization when they awarded him that $1.9 million. I'm like, whoa! I guess they mended ties, because of course that's something that the governor decides on too. That's federal funding.
Right.
The legislature has no say on that.
Yeah. And I mean, it is what it is. I know that I'd seen them at least recently. They did an outreach up in Jigo for Monomco, but kind of when they got that award, I went on their social media and I didn't see a lot of traffic that I would associate with like an award that big, because that's $2 million we're talking about here, right?
Yeah. It makes me wonder if there's going to be a conflict of interest in his position, and whether his nonprofit is going to be able to still, move forward without any conflict. I mean, the point is that we need as much as we can on this island to help our people with better health care, number one, but most especially a better way of living, a healthier living. Our diabetes, of course, high blood pressure up the yin yang. I mean, I'm guilty as charged. I'm trying to beat the battle of the bulge here, and I'm losing. But and also stress, that comes with it too. There's so many aspects of the word to try and beat this particular pandemic that is brought on by another pandemic.
Yeah.
And that is our healthcare. It's definitely recognizing it.
But let me ask you this. Do you think it's a fair question? So if we just reorganize public health, right? They did some things at public health. Do you think that this is, having this new position created for the former senator?
I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. Yeah. Do I think it's going to work? Everything is always a toss-up, and you hope that it is, that it's not done politically, that it's actually doing something to help the people.
Yeah.
So, we all have that, our good intentions have to come out. So we'll keep an eye on this.
There you go. Very gracious of you, Senator. So you're optimistic about it.
Well,
I'm wondering what's next, though. Tomorrow, are we going to see is former Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio going to be hired as a special advisor on public safety, and then former Senator Frank Uggan, a special advisor on the Guard or something? You never know. It's an election year. Senator, I want to switch gears a little bit, though, and you have this bill that we've been talking about here at the office. Is this for Manumco? It's like a Manumco Living Center or something?
Well, actually, it's senior living,
Senior living, got it.
assisted living, nursing care, independent senior living. It's all wrapped up in one. And what this bill does is incentivizes, developers to come here, but not just the person who's the contractor that's coming to build this facility, but also a management company that will go in tandem as this is being built. So providing a QC as well as other incentives, to build a facility where we can feel comfortable or even provide a better living for our seniors as they age. I mean, my goodness, we're looking at the baby boomers hitting the senior citizens. I mean, I think it's 140% increase in the seniors in our population that will happen in the next, 15 years. And this is, though Guam, we're notorious for taking care of our own. There are situations where a lot of time, many of our children have gone off island. They built a life in the States. They have their children and their grandchildren, and then their parents are left here on Guam. Many of them ask their parents to come to the States and live with them, and not uproot what they've accomplished in the States. But many of our Manumco don't want to move. I mean, this is home to them. This is where they live, and they want to pass on being here on Guam, where it's comfortable for them. So at least we need a facility to allow, them to be there, to stay here on Guam. And that is a senior living facility, similar to the ones I visited in Honolulu when I went on my last trip, when I went on vacation. So I stopped by some facilities there and looked at this one facility that was just amazing. I mean, I wouldn't mind moving into there when I get into my 80s, at all. It goes from step one, when you enter the facility or move into the facility, a small apartment, little kitchenette and one bedroom, and you're an independent senior. And then as time goes on, then you become assistant senior. Individual who needs some help with, cooking, can't cook anymore, or have mobilization issues. And then as you get older and age, then you go to a point where you need nursing care.
Yeah.
And this facility covers everything. It's a whole step and process of a senior life. And when I was there, I looked around, and it was fun. It was watching these seniors playing cards, talking with each other, or just sitting watching TV. But just knowing that someone was around gave, it was comforting to see that. Yeah. Versus a Manumco here on Guam sitting in the house while everyone is working or by themselves. Yeah. Or have one caregiver. That's not healthy. I mean, that's not the way you want to live your twilight years.
So, Senator, is there a company that's expressed an interest in building this type of facility, or is this something that we would put out a bid for? Or, and if you could just give more details about, I mean, have we got to the point where where you want it to be, what village, all that stuff?
Well, I think that not just companies that I've heard of at this point. I've heard of a couple of organizations that are actually looking into this. I had a meeting with one gentleman who had a group of individuals who are looking at something like this and how they can move a facility like this on Guam. It's going to be costly because this is not just your ordinary building, that this is a building that has to have certain things in place for individuals who like wider hallways, the bathrooms all have to be retrofitted for handicap accessibility, things like that. I've talked to a couple nurses, individually who've come up to me and said, wow, this is great. It's something that we need so desperately here on Guam right now. So there's definitely a need. I think many people on this island feel that St. Dominic's is not going to cut it, for this growing age group. And I think we need a better facility than St. Dominic, somewhere where we'll feel comfortable knowing our Manumko are there or even want to be there.
Right.
It's not just that putting them there. I think some senior people are saying, hey, you know, I bought insurance to do something like this, but I just need a facility that I would like to go to and feel comfortable with and is clean and enjoy the remaining of my life with my other friends, my
Right.
gangs.
Yeah, your gangs.
This is what the Golden Girls, what is that, the TV show, The Golden Girls? You know, a lot of us women who are, you know, up there right now, I think, and not married, you know, and our kids have flown the nest and we're, what do they call us, empty nesters? We always talk and joke around and say, hey, yeah, we should get a duplex, you know, and the four of us all have our own rooms and hang out. You know, you hear that a lot, right? So this is exactly what we're trying to do. And I'm just hoping and praying and hoping, double prayers on this, that we can get some developer to actually look at this and develop this facility along with a management company to manage it. That's the part that's the most difficult. Yeah. Writing the legislation, providing the incentives, you know, that's the easier part.
Right.
That's our part. That's the easy part. It's just enticing because the place I looked at in Honolulu, I think it housed about close to 170, if I'm not mistaken, individuals. And the cost of that facility, it was a beautiful facility, was about $150 million to build. And you got to remember in Honolulu, they use wood. You know, Guam, we would have to utilize cement.
Right.
And that's going to cost a lot. And of course, everything, inflation is going crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Senator, I mean, it's sad, right? This is something that maybe 10 years ago, people would want to string you up for even having this conversation. But I think it's time we just face the reality that, you know, gone are the days where someone can afford to stay home with na or ta, you know what I mean? Everyone has to work just to make ends meet with this ridiculous cost of living. So I think I mean, it's an uncomfortable conversation. I don't like it, but it's definitely one we need to be having right now. I want to switch gears because we're coming up against top of the hour. Dr. Nathaniel Berg, the chairman of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. We played, was that last week, sir, the week before? We played a bunch of clips from an interview we did with him, and just in hearing his responses to some of our basic questions about concerns that were raised at the oversight hearing that was held on the Health Professionals Licensing Office and the GBME board, I just could not believe my ears. I mean, I think it's clear, any reasonable person who listens to Dr. Berg's comments or reads his comments in the media, that I feel like I'm giving a vote of no confidence in his leadership. I mean, it's clear there's something that is preventing him from carrying out the duties of the GBME. I mean, these aren't even suggestions. We're talking about laws. Like the GBME is mandated by law to do these things that Dr. Berg keeps complaining are so difficult to do. We've had, you know, people filing complaints. Complaints are disappearing. People filing complaints they feel are very legitimate. They're basically being, I mean, the board is saying there's nothing to it, right? So I feel like I'm at a point where I don't know why people aren't calling for his resignation, but. Well,
it's funny you brought that up, Chris. You know,
how is it?
Yeah, well, when I heard some of it, you know, and the first question that was asked of him, who was the one that was doing the interview, by the way? I was just looking at I'm not sure who was doing the interview with Dr. Berg.
It was our Daniel Perez. He's our public health reporter. Yeah. Okay,
Daniel Perez. Yeah. You know, he asked a question and Berg did not answer it. You know, it was a good question. He didn't answer most of Mr. Perez's questions at all. I mean, he just skidded through the whole thing. I mean, he's notorious for doing that. He has a gift of gab, granted. And then, I think the people at Guam can see right through it, right? Yeah. I mean, you can see right through it. He didn't answer the question. He kept bringing up the speaker's name like it's her fault. I think he brought my name up about, you know, right beside the speakers, like Speaker Talahi and Senator Telo Taitague, and that we're doing this and that. I go, no, what we're doing is we're trying to work to help the board to accomplish what the intention of this board was to do, and is to protect the safety and welfare of our island, as well as to ensure that the doctors that they allow to practice on Guam are good doctors. You know, we don't need to settle. for Dr. Burke to say anything like, oh, well, the specialists, we won't be able to bring these doctors in because we're so hardcore on what we request for, it's absolutely not true. Number one, this island would never be able to get a specialist to stay on Guam and home base on Guam. We don't have the population to support that type of specialist, on this island. What is happening, though, is that we're bringing in doctors every 6 months, like SDA brings the specialist that comes in for about 3 weeks to a month. That's good. We're getting those individuals coming in, and I can guarantee you those individuals have medical malpractice insurance. They do, anyone that comes in. But, you mentioned earlier for his actions and what he's been doing. One, he's been sitting on the board for doggone forever, and it's almost like a power trip with him. It's about power, has nothing to do with the safety and welfare of the people of Guam. So we as a legislature, we confirm individuals. We confirm individuals and optimistic, there's that word, to ensure that they do a good job. But what happens when they don't? And it's a political year right now. So do you really think that the governor is going to ask Dr. Burke to step down and appoint somebody else? I don't think so. But we're the ones that confirmed this individual. So I think what I'm looking into right now is finding out if legislation can be created to actually out a board member, that's been confirmed by the legislature. If we can put them in, there's no reason why we as a legislature can't take them out. Of course, we're going to need 10 because the governor will probably veto it. But I think with good cause. And if we were to take this on the floor as a bill to remove Dr. Berg from his position, because I can tell you one thing. I've heard from other physicians that they keep saying Berg doesn't speak for us.
Yeah, I hear that too. And I hear that, but I want to see it. You know what I mean? And I just got to go back to this hearing, the hearings that we had on Bill 112, the controversial medical malpractice reforms, and the doctors that begged the senators, let us police ourselves, right? And this GBME is exactly the body that is supposed to be policing the doctors. But when you hear the chairman speak, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard him talk about protecting the patients. It all seems to be about the comfort level of doctors who are coming here. And, if we have to post their records, then they're not going to want to come here and, serve the people. It just really, and I don't know, maybe I'm a little more optimistic than you are just for today, but I feel like we haven't yet engaged the governor in this conversation. So, she's a nurse, and I'm pretty sure, she understands the dynamic of patients and, when they feel they've been wronged by doctors, and maybe she just doesn't have eyes on this situation. And maybe, I don't know, maybe someone should write a letter to her so that she can find out what's going on. I mean, I know it's in the media everywhere, but I just still think there's that avenue, right? Because the governor could force his resignation. I mean, I don't know if that would happen, but maybe she's just not aware of how egregious the situation appears to be to a lot of people who are not just outside looking in, even patients who have filed these complaints. And even board members like Dr. Annette David in a media report the other day, she was also saying like, hey, wait a second, are we really doing the best job that we can do? So I think you're starting to see the cracks in the GBME board. And I don't know if it's just a matter of the votes, right? If they have the votes to remove Dr. Berg, or if he has the support, because he's definitely a wheeler and dealer.
I would rather see, the members of the board to remove him myself, but they won't do it because they're pretty much protecting themselves. And that's the big issue here. There is no balance on either side. You're getting a few doctors who realize that the medical malpractice mandatory arbitration is really not fair. It's been questioned on being unconstitutional at some point. But the problem is, I think here is the lack of balance on both sides. You have to think of the patient, and who you're serving, and of course the doctor as well, and protecting his interest on both sides. But there is no balance with Dr. Berg. It's all about, whatever I can do to protect these doctors, and so they will be my best friends.
Man, Senator,
for me.
I would normally say like, wow, you're going out there with those comments, but I think anybody who's listened to these interviews that we've done with Dr. Berg, who reads, media reports and other media about just what he's saying on its surface, if you just look at his words, it's clear to me that his intention is to really, really just to protect the doctors. I mean, other doctors are saying it too. They're complaining to me that he's making them look bad, and it's going to lead to this. You know what I mean?
And that's what's really, coming out now. And that's why I'm hearing from other doctors, that, hey, he doesn't speak for us. We don't believe in that philosophy. And I think that's so true. So in the meantime, my office is looking at legislation that will be created that we can maybe, out Dr. Berg from being being on this board. Like I said, if we put him in there and he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing in the best interest of the people of Guam, as well as the doctors, like I said, it's a balance, a balance that we need on both sides to understand that as we move forward. And that's including on the medical malpractice arbitration, Bill 112. So I'm hoping we can address that bill. I know the speaker wants to have one more public hearing on it with amendments being made to one that we introduced earlier. And I think that balance will be in there. And I just most especially ask and plead with those who are listening today, we need your help to bring that balance in there to protect our people, to ensure that we will get better health care. I really, truly believe, with all the research and heartache and being thrown out from another doctor, who's probably a friend of Berg's, that I believe that if this bill were to go through and we repeal it and bring that balance, a more fair playing ground for both sides, I really think that we will get that better health care that we need on this island. And the majority of us will be here to get that health care instead of having to get on a plane and fly away to be taken care of. Because we know when a doctor takes care of us somewhere like in Cedar Sinai or off island in the States, when you walk into that office, they're going to try and find out what's wrong. They're going to provide those tests and see. Here on Guam, it's like take an aspirin and call me if it comes back later or, a couple of days later, and then it could be too late. We need better health care. And I think this bill is actually going to provide that better health care. And if doctors or Berg is saying that, oh, we're going to lose our doctors, where are we going to lose them to? Seriously, they would have to pay for medical malpractice insurance, elsewhere. We're the only jurisdiction here where doctors feel they don't have to have medical malpractice insurance because they're so well protected by this law that they don't have to. So that's got to tell you something. So I'm just praying and hoping that everyone listening, please, stand up, support this change, for better healthcare on this island. And we can do it. This step will be a great opportunity to do it.
Right, guys. And I just want to read off the membership of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. It's Dr. Nathaniel Berg, who's the chair. Phil Flores is the vice chair, and he's the public member. Annie Berdallo, Dr. Annie Berdallo is a member. Dr. Aranya Adolfson is also a member. Dr. Annette David, Dr. Louis Cruz, Dr. Scott Shea. But you know what I see here? I think that, and I know the speaker had said that she's working on some legislation relative to GBME, but I really feel like we need a couple patient advocates on that board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so too.
I'm kind of freaking out that they don't have any patient advocates on that board.
Right. Absolutely.
If you just look at the makeup of this board, it's all well-off doctors, like literally. Yeah. And one member from the public owns a bank. So I'm just not sure that the perspective is there for the common folk. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Senator, for your time. I want to catch up with you maybe in the next week because I know that you've seen these documents circulating relative to the ethics investigation into Congressman San Nicolas. This stuff is, I was reading it last, little bedtime reading. And so I know you said you're reading it too. It's going all around the place. So maybe we can catch up on that in the next week or so.
Lots of interesting things. And I ask that you stay online I think it's 10:30 today. We have a public hearing on the veterans, to stop the governor from, taking funding reserves from the veterans and not allowing them to spend their full allotment. And then there's some things that came up. I had to FOIA, found out that they were saying there's no money in their account. And then when I FOIA'd, all of a sudden there's $114,000 in there they weren't telling us about. So a lot of controversy. So that's coming up today for a public hearing on the veterans. It's a bill that I introduced, and I guess it sparked a lot of other interest because we didn't have the director from the Veterans Affairs that was show up. We only had Lester saying, please, I hate this bill. Don't do it,
Is that your Lester voice?
We got to do our creative accounting and allow us to, spend money from the veterans on something else other than the veterans. No. I mean, this is an area that we've been striving for, to assist them in every way possible. They deserve it. Don't take their money and set aside. Don't take $12,000 a month and put it away and tuck it away. Don't take $145,000 from what we appropriated them to put in as reserve by the end of the year. Right. They need the money today, every day. So,
all right. So you're anticipating the director to come down for this hearing of Veterans Affairs?
He better show up because this is really important here. Either that, but we need these the chairs of these committees to start subpoenaing people to show up. They can't hide and run. They work for the people of Guam. The people of Guam are their bosses, not the governor. It's the people of Guam. I serve the people of Guam. They're my boss, so I have to answer to them.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay. Take care, you guys. Everybody be safe, okay? And create a great day.
Thank you, Senator Telo Taitague, minority senator there, the Guam legislature, Republican. 8/11. It's Tuesday, March 15th. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, shall we? Okay. We're brought to you by Calvo Enterprises, ITD, and Jack in the Box. We're coming back with your 8 o'clock newscast, which is brought to you by Pacific Points. That's on the way. Right here on the link.
No,
good morning.
That's too hot for me.
That's hot, Barnett. Thank you.
I just get emotional in February because Valentine's.